And just so you guys know, like, I do like to interact, so I'll ask you guys some questions, and if you have questions, don't be afraid to interrupt me. This is not an issue. So I'm just going to start off here, introducing myself a little bit. I am Dr. Brent DeShaw, and I went to Palmer College in Iowa. I'm a certified chiropractic wellness practitioner, so what we're going to get into some of the stuff, the eat well, move well, think well paradigm of wellness and how that all correlates was the training that I took after chiropractic college. Extremities, that's really important for you guys as photographers, wrists, elbows, hands, and all that stuff. So I'm going to hit on a few things when we go through the move well portion for that. And I have photographed about 75 weddings with my beautiful wife, Sarah. So I've been in the fields a little bit and know what it's like to be lugging around the camera gear. So we're going to get into that as well. And I've taken care of almost a dozen professional wedding photographers, and so I'm pretty well versed in what has went on with them. So anything you guys have questions about, feel free to ask. A couple of things here. Does anybody have any like common complaints that they have from the work of being a photographer? Backaches.
Wrist pains.
Absolutely. Very good. These are just a few. Being fatigued at the end of the day, end of the wedding day, end of a day at the office too. Sore wrist, sore back, sore feet, elbow problems, all sorts of different things. So we're going to hit on all of this in a few ways that we can really help change that. And the list goes on and on because different people, rather than just some of the more common ones, people have had stomach issues, headaches, all sorts of different things tied into it. So I'm going to get into some of that too and what we're looking at. So all of those are a bunch of symptoms, and rather than trying to treat a symptom, we're going to look at the different solutions to try and correct that. And the first one is trying to treat a symptom, and when you do that with drugs or try and cover up one of those symptoms, the problem gets worse. So whatever the actual underlying problem is can sit there and continue to get worse. Just like if your car tire is out of alignment and continues to wear, and you know you can correct the wheel a little bit and just kind of continue on, but the problem is still going to be there. So the next thing you can do is just ignore it and wait for that emergency situation, and that's again just waiting for the problem to get worse and worse. And then the third thing you can do with all those different problems or symptoms is actually find what's causing it and fix it. And so that's what we're going to get into. But I want to hit on the top portion here first and kind of where that's brought us as a society. Any questions so far?
Is that a monkey ignoring it?
That is exactly what that is. So I tried to find some fun pictures too. So the healthcare system today is made up of hospitals, labs, surgeries, and drugs. And 95% of all medical breakthroughs take place in the U.S., which is significant. All of that healthcare comes with a price. And Steven saw the number before, but does anybody know the cost of healthcare? How much we pay in healthcare in the United States?
But individuals?
For the whole lot of us.
Billions,
Yep, more than billions. $3.1 trillion, and that's went up almost
per year?
That's per year. So that is a lot of zeros, and that is a bunch of money. And if you combine every other nation in the world, we spend more on healthcare than everybody else combined. And you know what? Some people would say, not a big deal. If that's what it costs to be the healthiest nation in the world, so be it. But the question is, are we the healthiest nation? And anyone know where we rank out of the top 50 industrialized nations in the world?
10.
We are number 49 out of 50.
What?
And there's non-industrialized nations who have better overall health ratings than the U.S. So we spend $3.1 trillion to be number 49.
Who's number one?
Who's the top?
I'm actually not sure. I should actually know that. I just know where we're at, and this was actually from 2 years ago, so I'm sure we're probably below that now. But that's ridiculous. And so we want to figure out why that is. And going back to what we talked about before, those 3 different ways to treat those problems is one is going to find the cause and correct it. The other one is going to just palliate the symptoms and let things get worse. Just kind of give them a pass to continue on. So what it looks like is going on is they're focusing on the wrong aspect of health. And a lot of people don't know what health is. So I've got a couple of definitions here because if you want a definition, you look it up. Can anybody give me a good definition for health? Any ideas? Sarah probably knows.
Be disease-free.
That's good.
And to eat well and be active.
Excellent.
Working in the doctor's office.
New Orleans medical definition is a state of mental, physical, and spiritual well-being, not just, well, this next one will be the complete definition. A state of normal function, all parts working together. This has actually been updated. It says not merely the absence of disease and infirmity, so just being disease-free is not actually what health entails. Because somebody could have no symptoms and have their arteries be clogged and then die of a heart attack the next day. Most people have heard of somebody going in, getting a clean bill of health, and then they've got problems that are just kind of sitting below the surface. So we're going to hit on that just a little bit more. The common aspect between those two things is function. Between those two definitions, as long as all parts of the body are functioning properly, your body's going to work how it's supposed to. So now that we kind of have a base for what health actually is, we'll kind of move into how this applies to you guys as photographers and how that's going to work. All right. Stephen, you hit on this earlier, how you get that optimal function as a part of health. How we eat, how we move, and how we think are all going to play a part in being optimally healthy. So if you're toxic in one of these areas, say if you eat too many Hershey's bars, you're going to be out of balance. And that's the whole eat well, move well, think well paradigm that I was talking about. And so how this applies to you guys specifically, we'll get into in just a minute. So toxicity and deficiency. Okay, if you have a plant that's sitting there and it's brown and the leaves are falling off, what are you going to do to that plant to make it better?
Water it.
Very
Prune
good.
it.
What's that?
Prune it.
Prune it, water it, good.
Fertilize it.
Fertilize it, give it some nutrients, absolutely. Anything else? Put it in the sunlight. All good things.
The sun's kind of important.
Absolutely. Unless you're getting too much of it. Because what would happen if you gave that plant water and it already had enough? It's going to
It would
wilt
also
even
die.
more.
I realized that.
You do the same thing. Exactly. So we're basically the same thing. If we're toxic or deficient, it's going to affect us in those different areas. And let's see here. Once you become toxic and deficient, toxic or deficient, you actually are classified as sick. So whether you have a symptom or not, that there's a disease process already taking place. And if that's for, a couple of days, probably not a big deal. But if it's the same problem for year after year, it's going to turn into a big problem. And that's when just letting the symptom go or letting that problem fester is going to be a big deal. So with that in mind, we're going to move into the eat well portion. And I want to give you guys a couple of really practical things that you could do on each of those 3 aspects that are going to help you immediately that you could do, and they'd be really simple to implement. So on the eat well aspect, this analogy, just to kind of give you guys an idea, if you have a car running on normal gasoline and you go and you put diesel fuel in it, what's going to happen to the car?
Stop running.
Exactly. Your body is designed to run on specific fuel, and if you're putting diesel fuel into your body instead of the normal gasoline that your body is required to run on, it's not going to work right. And so rather than going back and looking at all the huge list of symptoms before, we're going to look at what you can do to make your body work how it's supposed to, so those symptoms aren't a problem because your body's actually functioning how it's supposed to. So on the eat well portion, the best multivitamin that you can have. Does anybody know what multivitamin that would be?
Juicing.
The picture popped up. You got it. So out of multivitamins, everybody sees them advertised and marketed. The One Dailies, Centrum Silver, all those different things are pretty much junk. And when I take an X-ray of somebody, I'll see them 3 or 4 different pills still in their colon from the last 3 or 4 days. You can see it just because your body doesn't break them down, and a lot of the nutrients are synthetic. So they're just kind of, putting that money right in the toilet, so to speak. So there are a couple of multivitamins that you can't juice that are decent, but raw whole foods are definitely the way to go.
What about liquid vitamins?
There are good liquid vitamins, and there are some that have a lot of synthetics in them. But liquid vitamins, your body's going to absorb more readily. The one benefit that you're going to get. The biggest benefit you get with juicing is the nutrients are going to be whole foods, so they're going to have all the coenzymes, enzymes, and healthy bacteria and everything with them to help your body utilize them. Because if you just take like straight vitamin C or something like that, your body can utilize it to an extent, but there's a whole process that it goes through that it needs to break down those nutrients and use them efficiently. So juicing, as I don't know, have you followed what they've been posting, like juicing with the Knuths and everything?
Are you a member of our group on Facebook?
I am. I guess I haven't checked it out
Are you a
recently.
member of the PUG group or the juicing group?
Oh, just.
Okay.
Just okay.
Well, we started a juicing group because
Yeah.
we started juicing in the new year.
Oh, okay.
So they've been experiencing some of the benefits of that. So definitely the way to go. Do you take a liquid vitamin?
I have in the past. I actually just bought a juicer.
Did you? Awesome. That's fantastic. You need to join the group then, because
I should.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You guys have been juicing pretty solid now for the
I
last.
think we're on like day 25 or something.
That's awesome. Very cool. So your body's going to be able to use those vitamins a lot more readily with juicing. So from your diet and what you eat, you can actually get most of what you need, but there's a few key things that you can't actually get just through diet. So supplementation is key. Just in this day and age, our food is so nutrient deficient compared to what it used to be. And so, I'll just continue on. But probably the biggest thing that you can do, especially as photographers too, this is really key for anybody, but omega-3 fatty acids, fish oil or flaxseed oil is incredibly important because it decreases inflammation in your body. And when we went through that whole list of symptoms and you guys talk about like being sore and everything, if you don't have the right balance of omega-3s, your body's inflammatory, your joints are going to hurt more. At the end of the day, you're going to feel it a lot more. So that's one huge thing to put into it, and that's really simple. You can get that for pennies a day, pretty much, at this point. So the other two big things, well, the next big thing is probiotics, healthy bacteria, actually help your gut clean out everything. So getting those in your system are going to be huge for digestion and just breaking down enzymes. And a lot of people, when they get on a good probiotic, will actually lose a couple of pounds in the first couple of weeks.
What's the probiotic?
It's helping
The
Acid.
yogurt.
Yeah, that's kind of something that's been marketed really well, but it's not really that quality. So a lot of yogurts do have probiotics in them, but you have about between 9 and 12 strands that you need. And yogurts usually have 1 to 2, so it's just really low concentration, not very effective. But they can market it as, hey, we've got probiotics, this is good stuff, buy it. So Innate Choice has a really good probiotic, and then so does Dr. Mercola. And they have the between 9 and 12 strands of bacteria that are going to be super beneficial. Thank you, sir. And I'm not sure how do I want to put it here.
It should work.
So innate
There you go.
choice or what?
Mercola.
And it's probiotic. That is like a pill you take.
Yeah, it is. And your body needs about 30 billion healthy bacteria a day. And you actually have more bacteria in your gut than you do in the rest of your body, which is where most of your immune system is. So, especially as wedding photographers, because things are high stress from dealing with brides going from an 8 to 12 hour day, depending on the wedding, you want your body to be functioning as well as it can, so you're not getting run down and getting viruses or bacteria and things like that that actually affect you. So, healthy immune system, you need probiotics.
And to tell you, I stopped drinking coffee for the juicing
Oh,
completely. And
because you just have more energy.
much
You
more.
just get the
It's
natural
crazy.
energy buzz from the
That's so cool.
juice.
It's like almost like a high. Yeah, almost like a because like the second day I was juicing, I made the mistake of taking it late at night, and I couldn't
Which-
get
You
couldn't
can
go to
fall
bed.
asleep.
I was
It
like,
was like wired.
I was like wide awake because the nutrients and enzymes were just like going powering super strong. Now my body's adjusted to it. Now I'm like, I take it at night, fine.
That's really cool. That's awesome. All right. Next thing on the whole eat well portion is the organics. I'm going to kind of buzz through this because there's a lot of information, but I'll give you some of the basics. So organic foods are much cleaner. They don't have the herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, all those different things, which I was just talking to a friend who's a chef, and in their schooling they go through and they're told, if you can avoid it, never buy food that's had that used on it, because even after washing, no matter how well you wash it, 80% of the residues are still going to be on it after you wash it, so you want to make sure and keep that stuff off as much as you can. But the other part of that is, when they put that on the plants, normally a plant grows, and if it's a sick plant, it dies. But if it's or if it's given all those different poisons that kill off those funguses and everything, it's going to be able to survive even though it's not a quality plant. So, does that make sense? So, it's going to be able to grow up and not have the nutrients that it would. So, that's why when you get food today compared to 50 years ago, the vitamin content is so much less, is because the plants are a lot sicker than they were. So if you can go organic, it's going to be much more bang for your buck, because you're going to get a lot more nutrients in it, it's going to be a lot healthier, and then you don't have the toxins that come in with the other stuff. So we'll go into the dirty dozen, because eating organic can be a little bit more pricey, but there's some that you definitely want to stay away from. Okay, so all of that stuff. So inorganic fertilizers, just really quick on this, they're made up of 6 ingredients. All the other elements there that should be in the plant, in the soil, that make it healthy are left out, but you can still have a piece of kale that grows really like green and leafy by giving it a lot of nitrogen, but it's going to be lacking a lot of the other nutrients. So just to give a quick note on that. So these guys who spray this stuff typically come down with cancer. I had a friend who, his dad he's owned a chemical and or still does, and they spray the fields. And basically, he came down with, I can't remember which type of cancer it was, but he said, "Well, I'm surprised that I lasted this long." He's like, "It was only a matter of time because that stuff is so toxic." So you've got people out here who are trying to protect themselves, but you're eating that on your food.
So we're eating the same stuff that they're
spraying. Yeah, so
if you're juicing,
organic's the way to go.
if you're juicing non-organic stuff, though,
You're still getting some of the pesticides and residues and stuff. So that's why we always try and juice organic, for sure. But the Dirty Dozen, if you have to like pick and choose, these are the ones that you want to stay away from, especially the top 6. These have the most pesticides
Stay away
used
from
on them.
non-organic.
Yeah, you got it. And
apples.
those are have the most pesticides on them.
Really?
Especially because they go and they coat them in wax afterwards, which the wax coating on them. I also had a friend who helped develop the wax for that. He says he'll never need to eat another apple because of he knows what they put on them. So
Celery.
Yep. And bell peppers. all that
Strawberries,
stuff.
really?
Strawberries are super toxic. So if you can get those without pesticides.
It's funny because today at the store, like when we can go to the farmer's market and you don't know if it's organic or not. You also ask if it's organic and they say yes it is.
Mhm.
Some fruit stands say it is, some say it's not. The lady we bought ours from, she said they were. And there we were able to get 15 apples for $3, $4.
That's awesome.
But then today at the store, you get a bag of like certified organic.
Yeah.
10 apples for $5.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's ridiculous. Sarah was in Chicago and got a much better deal. It all depends on the demand.
I was sending a picture message because what was it, like $2 for a bag, and we pay like $7.
For organic apples. So it's ridiculous. The next 6, just real quickly here: grape, spinach, leaf lettuce, potatoes, blueberries, cucumbers. Those, they had the Dirty Dozen for years and years. Stay away from these. And then just in the last,
Wait, go back.
sure. In the last, what was it? Last year or 2, they added 2 more because the pesticides are getting so high on those. So it's no longer the Dirty Dozen; it's the Dirty 14. It doesn't have the same ring to it. So this is all stuff that everybody should really know, but putting the right fuel in your body makes a huge difference. It gives you that energy at the end of the day and helps you avoid that fatigue too, and helps your body heal. Lugging around all the equipment and everything, which we'll get into the next part here. So green beans and kale are the other 2 on there. Let's see.
Question.
Yes.
Are you saying for
No, for you.
I just wanted to say, tell them our motto, because all the because it is so expensive. It's like we just always say, well, pay now or pay later. Like pay now and get the more expensive stuff, or pay later and medical. So, so we just try to whenever we're like, we don't want to spend this much on apples, we're like, okay, pay now or pay later.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's
It's at
good.
least more pleasant to just pay
Yeah,
more for
that's
food
true.
than pay for medical.
Do you think the long run of it, so let's say we get non-organic apples and we're juicing them, in the long run, you don't poison your body, would that hurt you?
The toxics definitely build up, and I mean, there's things that you can do that detox, which Dr. Oz just talked about. Coffee enemas, which they're, a severe detox, but there's certain things your body can't detox on its own, and they can build up, and once they hit a threshold, that's when you typically start to have symptoms. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but like mercury, your body doesn't naturally detox that, and other things. And if you look at what's on some fertilizers, it's absolutely horrendous. There's it's just ridiculous. There's arsenic and all sorts of crazy stuff in it to kill weeds. But I mean, if you take that and ingest it, that stuff goes.
So that over time, that stuff will go away.
If your body can't detox some of it, so it doesn't necessarily go
How do you
away.
get rid of it?
It depends on what you want to do, but if it's if it like builds up and your body basically gets rid of most of the different fluids and things that it uses, it replaces it. The only thing it doesn't is gall. Wow, it just totally slipped my mind. But your gallbladder, the juice inside, it reabsorbs that every time. So it goes into your large intestine and gets reabsorbed. So it continually reabsorbs it. So if it's got toxins in there, your body just keeps reabsorbing it and you don't get rid of
So
it.
we've been juicing for like 30 days and we've had some non-organic stuff. Did the tox level at that point be so bad or no?
No, it's not going to be like severe. It's like, I mean, if you look at somebody who just eats stuff that's non-organic continuously forever, especially if they don't wash it, because you do at least get some off, it's going to accumulate, and that's when you start seeing a lot of, especially skin problems and things like that start to develop. Like you see a lot of people now with eczema and things like that, things that were never a problem before. It's because people are so unhealthy and toxic with a lot of different things. So that's kind of where that all comes in. But going organic, especially on the top 30 dozen, is going to make the biggest difference in your juicing and everything else. So keep that in mind. All right, the move well portion. This is all stuff that if you can start to eliminate some of those stressors, are going to be huge for you in the long run, especially if you're shooting 20 plus weddings a year. Carrying that extra couple pounds around with the extra battery pack is going to make a big difference. And it doesn't take that long to switch a battery out if you're into that. If you need the battery pack for the grip and everything, I mean, you can do it. But when you look at it and how much extra weight it is, it's a lot better for your hand to not have to have that. The whole backpack thing, roller bag is definitely the way to go. Think tank makes quality. So if you're lugging all of that equipment around and you're carrying it on your shoulder, at the end of the day, there's probably going to start to be problems because of that extra stress that your body's having to put up with. And then this is one of the reasons for so many, not the only reason, but a reason for a lot of wrist problems. When you hold your camera like that, that extra weight, your body's made to protect its joints and ligaments and everything. And this is really stable. Like if you're going to punch somebody, that's pretty stable. But if you have your wrist bent back like this, that opens up all of those carpal bones and then allows things to start to slip. And that's, you get some of that popping and grinding sometimes if your ligaments get loose. So avoid that as much as possible, holding the camera there, because I do see a lot of photographers do that because it's kind of comfortable. But you can hold it like this. It just takes a little bit of a change in your habit to switch from this to this, but it makes a huge difference for your wrists.
I'm totally that. Sorry.
Brett had to fix me and I have to break my habits.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, those are wedding day things. Move well. So the glamorous side of wedding photography and being a photographer is all of the back end work that you have to do. So rather than just being there on the wedding day, sitting there, your ergonomics are going to play a huge part in that. When we look at the move well, there are some crazy studies out there. When we go back to toxicity and deficiency, if you look at, I'll just throw this one study out there. If you exercise 5 or more times a week, your chances of getting melanoma go down about 60% in men and 75% in women. So, any idea why that would be?
Is that all cancers or just melanoma?
That study was specific to melanoma, but your chance of having all cancers will go down. But what would exercise have to do with melanoma?
Muscle strength.
Blood circulation, getting more oxygen to your cells.
That's all part of that whole healthy aspect. Because a lot of times when I ask that, people are like, well, maybe they're exercising inside, because a lot of people think of like the sun causing melanoma, but a lot of people who are in the sun a lot more than other people don't get melanoma, and usually melanoma occurs in areas that are not covered by sun. So sunlight's not the big thing, it's being deficient. You're not having those things to make you healthy enough to eliminate the cancer cells. So that's a huge thing, just the move ball portion. Your joints require a certain amount of activity, and if you don't get it, they're going to hurt and be sore, and your muscles are going to be sore. So ergonomics, as you do these things, are important, but it's also important to get up and move every day and keep your joints moving how they need to. Any questions on that move well part right now?
Does Sarah edit that way with the back bend?
That's actually a picture of me.
Yeah. Whatever you can do there. So we're going to get into a little bit here about how much exercise the body needs and everything, the type of exercise. You are made to work out actually every day, have some physical activity. It should be varied. So we're talking 7 days a week, being mobile and getting some activity, not just if a lot of people say, well, you know, I walk a lot at school or something. I take care of a lot of teachers, and that is not exercise. Just because you have to walk a long distance in the parking lot is not exercise. You need to get up and get moving and actually do something where your body's being challenged a little bit, and that's going to be getting you back up to that sufficiency point for what your body needs. So type of exercises, Stephen, you were talking about this earlier. The kettlebell exercises is probably the best exercise you can do because they're functional. When you're everyone's seen like people who go to the gym and they just like do bench press over and over. They just do curls or whatever exercise you may see them doing. It's not very functional, especially if you're taking a bunch of pictures and you're getting on the ground and hopping back up. You don't want only certain muscles to be healthy and working properly because it's actually going to change your whole posture and it's not going to work right. So functional exercises are huge. Most body weight exercises and using kettlebells are going to be really huge, especially as you go through those wedding days and you're on your feet for 8+ hours. So, any questions on?
I can demonstrate kettlebell.
That would be great.
We were actually saying over the weekend shooting a wedding, and we just got a heart rate monitor. And I was like, I would love to use a heart rate monitor shooting a wedding day to see like how many calories you actually burn through all the running around.
That would be interesting.
Stuff, so might do it.
That would be really cool. Let me know.
Yeah.
So that all goes into also if you're exercising every day and then you go and you shoot a 8-hour wedding, you're going to be a lot less fatigued at the end of the day. And you're going to be able to do a lot more if you actually prepare for it. Whereas if you're not getting any exercise and you're on your feet lugging around that equipment the whole day, you're going to be wore out and not feel like doing anything.
Before Saturday's wedding, I went to the gym.
Did you really?
And I did an hour-long workout and then went and shot a wedding after that for 9 hours. That's the best I've felt.
That's so cool.
Forever, because I got
Like you're crazy.
a whole lot of workout, came home and I juiced and I went and shot a wedding.
That's awesome. Makes a huge difference.
Oh, it totally does.
That's so cool.
Question on organic. So I was just looking in the fridge. We bought it was 2 baskets for $4. Big containers of strawberries at the store today. So if they don't say organic, they're not organic.
Yeah. You can look at they have little codes on them, like 4312, like bananas are like 91, or I don't even remember.
But it has to say that to be organic?
It has to say organic. Organic has a 9 in front of it. I don't know if you have any produce from the store.
Yeah.
But it will say organic on it, if it is. So.
Well, there's one that's, it's like one starts with a 9, one starts with a 4, and one starts with a 3.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Genetically modified.
So like lemons from our neighbor's tree would be organic.
Good to go. Yes.
But like this one is a 4.
It's got pesticides used on it. Bananas are probably going to be a better thing to get if it's not organic because you have to peel that off.
Yeah.
But organic will have a 9 in front of that 4.
And then the worst one would be a 3.
Yeah,
because that's genetically modified.
don't get anything.
So that's not even made for your
I
body.
see numbers on there.
Yeah, that doesn't have it.
So not organic.
Not organic.
And strawberries on the list are not so good.
They're number 5, yeah, so they're not the best. So make sure you wash those really well and then just get.
Was that list in the order of what's worst?
Yeah, apples are the worst, and it is worst stuff.
Wow.
And today we picked up apples at the store that actually say organic.
Awesome.
So they're
That's really good. So that was the whole feel for your body. Now think well. Photographer stresses. Rather than just thinking of the wedding day, the whole business aspect of it, and just the stress of dealing with all the emails, clients, all that stuff, it pays to have a positive attitude and change the way that you think. And I'm just going to hit on this. Each one of these, the whole eat well, move well, think well stuff, typically I do just one presentation on all of them because they're so in-depth and detailed, but I just want to give you guys a taste of everything here. So, any questions? Does anybody need a break or anything? Good. Okay. Think well portion. Just jumping into this. The questions you ask will determine the quality of your life. So if you ask poor questions, you're going to get poor answers, and life is going to be painful. So just a couple of questions that are bad and not very empowering. Why is this so hard? Why is the bride so insert expletive? Rather than thinking that way, rephrasing and reframing your perspective is going to change all of that.
That's a huge
So,
That's a great picture. Sarah shot that?
yep.
No, Caitlin, the girl.
Oh, she, yeah.
She's my new bride.
question.
So, the bride before who was tearing her hair out, if you ask a good question, she'll appear
I
as a
think
lot
I feel
prettier.
calmer looking at that than the other picture.
Of course.
The other ones are kind of stressing me.
So just better questions as an example instead of why is this so hard, etc. What could I do to make this better? What's great about this bride? Might just be her shoes, but at least there'll be something there positive to focus on. And what do I love about my day? So just focusing on something more positive is going to make a huge difference. You're going to feel less stressed. You're going to be able to do your job a lot better, and the pictures will always turn out better and more creative. So that's just a quick note on that. So I just want to go through this real quick. I'm sure everybody here wants to be the best at what they do and really excel, because I don't know many people who just want to be mediocre and just get by. So just pull this up here. If you want to be a high performer, you need to act like one. So all people who perform at higher levels are going to do things differently than people who perform at a lower level. But if you just thought about, like you were talking about, Stephen, if you got up and started your day with a little bit of time in prayer or just quiet time, and then getting up and exercising a little bit and juicing and thinking about how much more energy you're going to have and focusing on those positive things and not stressing out about things, you're going to be in a lot better mood. You're going to be able to perform a lot better, and you're going to be able to take that next step up. So when you do all of those different things, you're going to be able to make more money because people are going to want to deal with you because you're going to be more attractive
For my wife.
for your wife, and just like in your attitude, more approachable, better attitude, more creative, because anyone knows if you're not feeling well, you don't feel like, doing anything, let alone going and shooting a whole wedding day, especially if you're hurting or something like that. So you're going to feel and look better, and all that does add up to being able to book more clients. You'll have more energy. You're not going to be as stressed out. Life's going to be more fun, which is always good.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So,
crazy how like the first 2 weeks I started working out in the gym, I wasn't taking amino acids, and like the last 3 weeks I have them, and it's nuts what they do. And
being
just-
on them and just having that
Yeah, yeah.
sufficiency.
It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Reading online how like muscle growth is based on amino acids, and they're what build muscle.
Mhm.
And so like I'm just seeing total change in results there since I started
That's really cool.
taking the BCAAs. It's like,
Nice. Your muscles are protein, so having just the branched chain amino acids has that. That's that whole purity and sufficiency thing. So very good. Just going to move into real quickly here. The one thing that connects all that. So if you eat really well, move well, and think really well, there is one system in the body that connects all of that. Does anybody know?
Nervous system.
You got it.
Go, sorry.
So your nerve system actually controls and coordinates it. So you eat that food, your body actually takes it in and turns it into living, breathing tissue in your body. Your nerve system is responsible for coordinating that. So if your nerve system's not working right, your body's not going to function right. And Stephen, you experienced that firsthand after the accident, just like we were talking about, as far as your body wasn't able to function how it was supposed to. So what we did was remove the interference from that nerve system. So I will just get into that here. This just goes through and shows the different areas where those nerves run. This shows organs and glands and everything, but they go literally everywhere in your body. This shows what's called a subluxation. So that is basically stress on your nerve system that your body can't handle. And when that stress comes in, it's basically like your nerve system gets a shock, whether it's from carrying a bag over your shoulder, or I think that was my phone, or being in a car accident, taking a fall, or if it's from something that you ate and your body's not able to deal with it, or if it's a emotional stressor. Everyone's been stressed out where they can feel their shoulders rise up, or just they feel stressed out. So when you have that stress come into your nerve system, it causes your muscles to spasm, bones start to move out of alignment, and it just goes back to stressing the nerve system more. And that's that whole loop of subluxation. That's what I look at as a chiropractor. And that's what we want to get into just a little bit here. So subluxation, this is just a few things that are noted about subluxation and its definition. It's a spinal bone that's lost its position with the vertebra above or below just 1 millimeter, and it can decrease nerve function by up to 60%. So just so you guys can get a little bit of perspective on what that looks like, the weight of a dime is all it takes to decrease the actual nerve function by that much, which is significant. So it's a pretty terrible drawing of the spine, but you get the idea with the nerves coming out here, and these are healthy nerves. This nerve has irritation on it, so it's not functioning right. So this is a picture of a healthy kidney, just as an example. And if you think about a subluxation, having pressure on that nerve going to that kidney, the best it's going to be functioning at, if it's that much pressure, is 40%. And you may not notice any disturbances with that function right away. You may not notice any significant changes for 5 years, but what happens after 10 years of things not functioning right, or even longer, you start to see changes to that kidney. And this is when we were talking earlier, this is a polycystic kidney. That's not something that happens overnight. That's something that has dysfunction for a long, long, long period of time, and it's able to start to have those changes. So I'll take that down because it looks kind of gross.
How does it get that?
You just aren't, your body's not able to fix the problem, and it just continues to malfunction, and then that's a point when that medical system we talked about before needs to be in there. That kidney needs to be taken out. So not every subluxation is going to affect your body in the exact same way, but if it is there, it's going to be causing disturbance to that system, and over time definitely creates a big problem. So that's one of the reasons why I really focus on kids and getting them helped out. And just for an example, I had a little girl who was 8 years old. She had stomach aches every day for like a year and a half, every single day. And her mom would try diet. She'd give her probiotics, digestive enzymes, all of those different things. And she was trying to do everything she could on that whole eat well aspect, but the problem was actually the nerve pressure. So I got her adjusted, and after a month, she had no more stomach issues, no more stomach aches. So the nerve going to the stomach had irritation on it, and the body is producing too much stomach acid. Again, not a huge deal if it happens for a week, but if that little girl has that same problem for 10, 15 years, you're starting to look at ulcers, you're starting to look at other things developing, not to mention your body's in a balance. So if that's not functioning right, other areas are going to start to malfunction too. So super important stuff. And how do you know if you have a subluxation? That's basically you get checked to see what's going on with it. See if you have irritation on the nerve, which are some of the scans that I'll talk about. But high blood pressure, how do you know if you have that? You don't unless it's severe, unless you get it checked. Same with osteoporosis, things like that. Cholesterol, you don't know it's out of balance unless you get it checked. So chiropractors check your nerve system to make sure your nerves are functioning well. A lot of people think neck pain, back pain, stuff like that, but what we really focus on is the function and the cause of that problem, rather than just trying to treat a symptom. Because as we looked at, treating symptoms before is like not very productive. So that's just a really quick thermography scan, which measures heat from side to side, and that imbalance starts to detect where there's a possibility of subluxation. And then x-rays are also another component that can show either long-standing subluxation or other problems with the spine. So when you start to put those different things together, along with palpation and other scans, you start to see what a subluxation is and actually what it's doing to the body.
Is that a normal looking neck?
Nope, that's actually started to curve the wrong direction. It should actually curve back right where that line does. So
Is that on your patient?
that picture is not. But I mean, I've got patients with a lot worse than that, and better too. So the whole approach with the whole Gonstead chiropractic, which is what I use and several other chiropractors do too, but super specific, actually correcting it rather than just trying to treat a symptom. And I just want to go through really quick a couple of things. These are all symptoms that people came in with, but with chiropractic care, by adjusting the spine and removing the interference, the body's able to function and heal itself like it's supposed to, because your body's made to heal itself. So when you take the pressure off the nerve, it goes back towards that normal healing process. That makes sense? Okay. Very last thing. We're just about to hit an hour here. So I always like to throw Eduardo up here because it's such a significant change and it shows what can happen with a subluxation. This guy, he was a patient down in New Mexico of another Gonstead practitioner that when I was in school, this case came up. But this guy, he was normal one day, and then he started to have symptoms. He wasn't able to speak. He was starting to drool, and then he started to get this spastic paralysis. He wasn't able to write, and then he lost his ability to speak. And he had loads of MRI, CT scans, seen lots of neurologists, everything that you can think of, basically, and they couldn't find out what was causing the problem. Because the one thing that the medical profession doesn't look for is subluxation. They're more interested in trying to treat the symptoms, so trying to treat the spastic paralysis. But this was 3 weeks after he got adjusted, and he had had that going on. It was either 6 months or a year and 6 months. Anyways, it was a significant amount of time. And I don't remember how many adjustments he had in that time.
So he literally walked around like...
He couldn't move. Yeah, I think there's some pictures of him sitting.
Oh my God.
And he just couldn't come out of that position. So that's a major subluxation, and that's affecting his entire physiology. So people have subluxations that are less symptomatic than that, but that's one where you can see how much it can affect your body. But just want to show that. And then some pre and post x-rays. You can actually see, if you look, how compressed down his skull was there versus the after X-rays. So just a huge difference by getting the pressure off the nerve. So, any questions?
Amazing.
All right.
Amazing.
How are you so amazing?
The Gonstead technique, chiropractic.
Brendan's so amazing. We actually drive up. We're patients of his, and we drive up
An hour and a half.
hour and a half just
Yeah, Justin's one.
multiple times a week.
Wow.
Literally has changed our lives completely. She was having a shoulder pain so bad recently she couldn't work out, and so it's gone. Now,
Yeah.
just a couple visits.
That's really cool. And you used to work for a chiropractor, you said?
Mhm.
That's really cool. Very cool. So, that concludes my presentation.
Well, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys. I hope you all learned something.
Good. Even though I know you, I still learn a lot tonight.
All right. You guys are free to mingle and chat and hang out. Unless you have any questions, I'm more than happy to.
I learned a ton.
I think he definitely convinced me that we don't want to eat organic.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we definitely, even though we've been juicing, we're definitely been buying non-organic stuff.
It's a huge deal. That's awesome.
It was crazy to me how when we went to Blue Ridge and there was an apple orchard there that we went and got all these apples from, and we went with the impression of like, oh, we get to like get apples that are like straight from like this orchard right behind the building, and you know they must be organic, kind of thing. And then we're buying them, we're like, oh, these are organic, right? And they're like, no, technically they're not because of the certain fertilizer or whatever that it isn't approved, blah blah blah. And it was just like a disappointment, you know, because you think like, but these are like straight from the apple orchard right behind you. You'd think like they'd be the healthiest straight off the vine or the tree, and they
Absolutely.
weren't. But it's just crazy all the differences of fertilizers and stuff.
I bet you guys' neighbor has a lemon tree.
I know. They can get fat for free. So anyway, we want to start growing our own plants.
We're going to an apple tree, lemon tree, orange tree.
Nice.
Just to start, just to, do organic.
Do good stuff on the Discord.